Hello, everybody. We do have a quorum today, so we can vote on some issues that are going to come up. First, we're going to do a roll call, and Michael, can you start, please?
Michael Griffin.
Sue Polidora.
Steve Puzzle.
Peter Spillane.
D. Forte.
Susan Sterry.
Corin Hollowell, Parks Foreman, City of Portsmouth.
Duncan McCallum.
And Eva Boyce.
Thank you, Eva. On Zoom. The very first thing I have to do that Suzanne asked us to do is at the first of the year, we're supposed to vote on or check in to see if anyone's interested in switching positions, meaning do I want to step down? Does Dee want to step down? Does anybody want to step up? So we need to talk about that for a minute or two. Is anyone interested in being co-chair?
I just bumped up for another committee, so I will decline your offer,
Okay.
What committee?
and I'll nominate you.
I'm happy to step down from co-chair if somebody wants to do it. It wouldn't hurt my feelings.
Doesn't look like there are many takers, so we can go on
We're in
with
good hands, I think.
Yeah, you're doing great.
You do great.
No, I'm not. I mean, she's doing everything.
No, that's not true. You guys help.
Maybe we should talk about changing it to just being a chair.
I mean, that's fine too, because,
Well, I think co-chair is probably pretty important if the chair can't be
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So I think you want to maintain that.
yeah,
Okay.
and I agree with him, because you do a lot of things, research and stuff like that, that not at meetings, which is fine. And sometimes I get on a tangent about something personal for myself, like doing genealogy on the cemetery. So anyway, so I guess, I'm not sure how we would end this. There's no interest
But
in,
in the chair position, does anybody want to take that over or vote on that?
well, yeah,
So I guess somebody
co-chairs.
needs to make a motion to stick with the.
I move we keep the same officers we had last year.
second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I will, how about you, Eva?
I said I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you all. Approval of minutes from November 7th, if everyone's had a chance to read them. Does anybody have any corrections that they have seen or
I
need?
move to approve.
Second.
I'm not sure Michael's read it all. Are you just reading them now, or
No,
you're all set?
yes, thank you.
Oh, okay.
So I believe a motion was made.
Yeah, and somebody seconded it, right?
Second.
Sue seconded it.
Or vice versa.
All those in favor of
Aye.
accepting the minutes?
Aye.
All right, thank you. As you can see, we have a couple of guests here right now, so I'm going to take the 361 Hanover Street and jump it to right here, because that's why John and Shane, right, are here. 361 Hanover Street is the Heinemann Building. Do you know?
No.
It's down by the Foundry. So the Foundry parking lot, if you went up the next street, there's a long brick building, is the Heinemann Building. So that's the area of town we're talking in. During Christmas vacation, I did extensive research on whether there was a cemetery located on the corner of Rock and Hanover Streets. And the reason I did it was because a neighbor of the Heinemann, it lives right across the street. Her name is Marcy Vaughn. Contacted me. She's spoken to just about everybody in City Hall, planning, lawyers, legal department, and what have you, that she was concerned that there was a cemetery there and that the new development would probably built, if I'm understanding correctly, because I looked at the plan sites, would cover the spot where the cemetery is supposedly to be. And one of the things that they're basing it on is rambles about Portsmouth, and there's a whole chapter on the Parker family whose headstone was uncovered. And I say supposedly because there's no documented records that this happens other than this. And then what I think happened, and I wasn't going to get into all this, but what I think happened is the families of, it was the Parkers, how can I forget? The Parkers placed on Find a Grave back in 2010 and 2013, listed that some of these people of this family were buried at what they called Portsmouth Steam Company burial ground, which has never been an official name for any cemetery here in Portsmouth that I could find. And what happened, I did contact the people that had listed, but I don't know how Find a Grave works, and these listings, as I said, were over 10 years old. I contacted 2 of them, and I've never heard back from anybody. So I don't know if Find a Grave forwards it, because you have to do it through their website, whether they forward it to people or you just have to wait until somebody comes on. So having said that, I was curious and didn't have anything to do. So I took a deep dive into researching this, and I brought it in from both ends. I went all the way back as far as I could easily to 1900 to see how many people had owned that property in that area. And there were a lot, and there were a lot of different uses at that building, including one time having it burned down. But the bottom line is there was nothing on any deed or anything that implicated that there was ever a cemetery on the property, which in fact doesn't disclude it, but that's what I was hoping it was going to be, as simple as that, but it wasn't. So then I went from 1600, because that property, that whole area has been developed since 1600, starting with land grants. So then I went the opposite end and tried to track down land grants. And if you want to know anything about land grants in Portsmouth from 1600 to 1850, just ask me. The bottom line was that it was such a mess down in, not a mess, how they operated. The people in Great Britain often reassigned the same property to someone else after they had already reassigned it. So, and then a lot of times the people that were developing it were supposed to, because when you got a grant, you were supposed to, I think the minimum I saw was you had to settle 20 families, build a church and something else within like 5 years of getting your grant. So what happened, that didn't always happen, and a lot of the people that had received grants walked away from them. And so when they walked away, anybody that had come over and had already settled and had a piece of property there, they just stayed and claimed it. Having said that, there were no great records kept back in even the 1700s. Because I tried to go back to tax records here, but tax records would just say, yes, so-and-so paid, 50 quid or whatever it was back then. It wouldn't have a notation of that there was a family burial ground on the property.
Did they talk about the African burial grounds in your research, or you were just looking
No,
at that section?
I didn't
Okay.
go there. No, this was complicated enough.
Didn't want to interrupt your train of thought, but I can't visualize what this property is. Hanover, by where the new Heinemann building? where
Yeah, the Heinemann, no, the old Heinemann building.
The old one?
The old one,
Okay,
on the
all right.
corner right there.
Rock Street, okay.
By Peter Hapney's shop.
Yeah. So, and I will note that that was common practice back in those times to bury your family on your property if you had a sizable amount. And it wouldn't be uncommon for someone not to make a note of it anywhere. So not knowing and I talked to DPW, I talked to Dave DeFossis, who told me outright that in Rambles, it says 1847 is when supposedly this gentleman came to town, asked if any headstones had been buried, and the city came down, said, yeah, dug up the exact spot, and up popped a headstone from 1703 with a, but there's no document of that. And back in the day, not rumors, but speculation and stories and everything got spread around, were spread around. So again, that's why I went to DPW, and records don't go back to 1847. And there weren't work orders. There wasn't even a ledger that anybody knows of that might have said, back in 1847, these are all the things that the city did. What Dave DeFossis could tell me was before 1847, from maps that I researched, and he has for other reasons, there was no street. There wasn't a Hanover Street there. It was called, when they finally built something down through, it was called McDonald Street. And then it changed to something else.
There is a McDonough.
Right, but it wasn't McDonough, it was McDonald. And so when this supposed, nobody knows when they actually put the water main. They're assuming they dug for a water main, put it through, and then a road could have been, put on top of it. That since 1847, he knows for a fact that in that area, there have been 2 more major projects done over the years where they dug all down through there to put in new water lines and also new connections to some of the buildings, even way back then, because where Heinemann is, it's always been something, and the rope factory was down and back, and there was also a tannery down behind there too. So he said there's no records of anybody, finding any more headstones down in that area. However, once again, it doesn't necessarily disprove it, because if you were a worker or whatever and you came across a headstone back in 1847 or even the turn of the century, you're not, chances are they weren't going to think twice about it and do anything about it and just bury it in the ground. So my final conclusion after about 45 hours worth of work and contacting every archive, including Great Britain, for the land grant back, and going to Massachusetts, and they replied. They gave me a list of land grants and connections within 4 days, just like they said. So they must have a full-time staff that just, answers from all over the world. What was I saying? That I went to Massachusetts because Massachusetts Bay Company was involved in land grants and parsing out the land. The city of Portsmouth has wavered back and forth between Maine, Vermont, and Maine about 6 or 7 times that I can prove, starting back in the 1650s. So, and then at one time they split up the land, and it was Dover, Exeter, Portsmouth, and what was the other one? Greenland, I think, or Stratham. I think Stratham got more notice back then. So, I've exhausted every which way. So my final conclusion was that there's no proof there was, and I even did obituaries, went back as far as we could go with obituaries. There's no proof to say there was a cemetery there, but it doesn't mean there wasn't, because of the time frame that we're talking about, and records were so bad. So I had said to Suzanne, to let her know that I had done all this work, that my conclusion was that I can't prove it one way or the other, and we've certainly researched it, that an archaeologist should be on site when they break the ground, and that if any headstones or remains are found, that they be collected and then re-interned someplace else, like in North Cemetery. Because some of the people that this section was owned by the Adams family, who were influential back in the day. Not that that makes a difference, but they were lawyers and preachers and all of that. So they're actually buried in North Cemetery, and their headstones are there. So there's just, I can't say yes there was and no there wasn't. So that was my final suggestion, just so that you all know. And also, I contacted the head archaeologist for the state again, and he gave me the exact RSA that says if you're doing construction on a site and you come across remains or what appears, that you have to stop. So that would cover it anyway. So as long as everybody understands, not everybody, I mean, that's the facts. So that's all I tried to do. Because I knew about this, or had heard about this cemetery back in 2021 when we first started. And then I went out, and we have a book that has documented with current pictures of every single cemetery within the city limits. I knew about that, but I just put that on the bottom of the list, as at that time we had more pressing things to do than look for a possible cemetery. And the fact that there's been continuous construction in that area since 1623. So,
Sure.
you know, who knows? And I learned also that there was also a pond between Islington and North Pond. There was another little, I don't know if, you know, a retaining pond or whatever, a natural pond that was there. So obviously the water table, who knows what the water table has been down in that area over the years too. So, but at one time, just as a trivia fact, the Adams grant included from where Heineman is, went all the way over to Bartlett Street, went all the way up to Islington Street, and went over as far as Bridge Street at the time, at one time. So that was a
Like
big,
Christian Shore. was
no,
the-
Christian Shore was the other side.
On
The other side, huh?
Other
Okay.
side. So on this side, back in the 1600s, that's who owned it. I don't know if they were the first or whatever, but that I could research, so. So a lot has changed since
So-
1623.
So Susan, so the earlier maps of Portsmouth, did they show a cemetery there
No.
or burials there?
No.
And the whole purpose we're having this discussion is.
I wanted-
Want to build,
No, I wanted to let you know that I had done all this research.
okay.
I didn't, you know, I'm part of the cemetery committee, and I did all this research, so I just wanted to be transparent that I had done some of these things. So no one hired me, nobody asked me to do research per se. I just took it on myself to do it because, as you all know, my roots go back to 1623, so I didn't find any family names and anything, but
When was Governor Cutts moved?
oh, I didn't, that was afterwards, wasn't he in the,
I'm thinking the 1850s.
but wasn't he removed from Vaughn Street, which didn't go down as far as what we're talking about? You know where I'm talking about, right? That didn't go down as far as, you know, as the Heineman building. But, yeah, I mean, that's another classic example. He was buried right where his house was for all those years, and then redevelopment came, and they decided to move his body, right? Is that how it went? Or, yeah. And also, there was just something in that little trivia I read to you about Michael's heritage in cemeteries, that back then, they just paved over everything. So if they were going to widen the streets, that's what happened down at North cemetery, if they wanted to widen the streets and put sidewalks and stuff, they just
They just did it.
went down through and did it. So that's why I'm explaining. So if you hear any rumors or whatever,
Is there any public comment on
well,
this?
no, I was just going to ask.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's my story, if you guys have any questions, because these are the gentlemen that are part of the project at 361 Hanover Street, so.
Yeah, John Chagnon, the engineer, and Shane Forsley represents the landowner. So the reason that this came up is because the person named earlier has come to public meetings and said that the development has to recognize that there's a burial there. And so that person has asked the city to confirm that, and this is the end of that process, I think. That's really-
Because she cited a couple of RSAs that she thought was pertinent to this particular site, like the 25 feet around from a known burial ground, so.
So the,
Yeah?
Just have people speak into the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If we could get your names on the record, that'd
Yeah.
be great, please.
John, you can come sit next to me. I won't bite you.
Shane Forsley with Hampshire Development on behalf of 361 Hanover Street.
John Chagnon from Haley Ward, working for Hampshire Development. And I think as I mentioned, the process here was one of inquiry. And they're in the process of doing a development on the site, which is going to disturb the earth. So the inquiries were made with the city as to whether there was a burial site here. Susan has done some good research. I think the bottom line is that the RSAs cover it, and the language that you mentioned would
Right.
probably be appropriate to put on the plan. The developers are not in the, are not, they're cognizant of the sanctity of human remains, and if they
Right.
come across them, they'll take the procedures. So there'll be a note on the plan to that effect.
Yeah, and I assumed that was what was going to happen, not that I don't have anything in the game, but once I started researching, RSA 227 covers from the state saying if you come across a headstone, any remains you have to stop and immediately. And then there's RSA 290, I think it's in 290 or 289, that oh, no, it's a different RSA, but there's an RSA that says that you can file for a permit. So if anybody came across any remains, that you can re-intern them someplace else. And there's guidelines that tell you what that process is. And nobody in a historic cemetery, regarding a historic cemetery, I would doubt anybody would dispute whether you could do that or not, or block it, you know what I'm saying? And there is room in some of our cemeteries, but that's just my personal, as far as, where else to bury them. But
Sure.
there are plenty of RSAs in place to cover this particular issue for you guys. It's not an issue for us, but
Right.
other than we wanted to uncover as many cemeteries as we could to make note.
If they were to find any remains, who would take the custody of them after they're found?
It would either be the state, it would be somebody probably like, I don't know who you guys might get, but Independent Archaeology may take custody of them because they're archaeologists that work with the state, or even the state might take them to UNH, who knows, but it's not an issue. I mean, they'll go someplace safe until,
I was just going to say, if the city can take custody of them until they can get reinterned.
no, my personal opinion is the city should stay out of it as much as they can because it's easier. We're not set up to do all this permitting and all that kind of stuff. We're just not set up for that. And Corin and I know that for a fact because we've been working a little bit about getting a new cemetery for the city, which is years out. there's nothing in place so the city would, would put their stamp of approval of, like, if IA, like Kathleen Wheeler took charge of them, or the state would take them and put them at UNH or what have you. So I don't think, that's not a issue.
So they will contact the state archaeologists if they find something directly.
Right, or it may be recommended that they have an archaeologist on site, like Kathleen Wheeler, and so if all of a sudden, they find something, because who knows what condition anything would be in, for remains. But as far as headstones, those could definitely would be a little different than what remains might be at this point in time.
I think what would be helpful for us, too, is if you have resources or contacts of somebody who would be an archaeologist in the instance that once we do excavate, and let's say it's a condition of our project sort of thing, that somebody needs to monitor it, or if we come across something, if you could put us in touch with that. I guess I haven't had much experience with that, but in my mind, as I kind of started thinking about this process, I thought maybe the University of New Hampshire, their programs, or somebody through the state that that would do that.
And the state would recommend, like, independent archaeologists, consultants who are in this area and they worked on the African burial ground. They've done many, many jobs, and they have
Jessica Kofalice, she took over Kathy Wheeler's job.
The name of a company.
Well, I think you could just reach out to the state archaeologist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can give
he
you
would
both.
know.
If
He
you
would
want
know
to.
her.
Let me give you my email, and you can email me, and I'll send you a list
Awesome.
of all your, opportunities of
Great.
it. And I'll list the specific RSAs that might help you with that, so.
Not to take more time, but
Yeah.
recently, in the recent past, we had the experience of doing a project on Newcastle Avenue where they came across a headstone. And they called up the state, and very responsive. They came down, I don't know if you remember this, because it was so recent, but they came down.
I
and
didn't
they-
hear anything about it, yeah.
And the guy discovered that it was a toss-away. So somebody had misspelled the name on the stone, and so they just gave the headstone to somebody to throw in their backyard. Anyway, so they were very
Oh,
responsive.
great.
my card, so you can email me.
I'll send you a
Figured it
list
out in
in the
like 2 days.
RSAs
Great.
that
They're serious about it.
Yeah.
are appropriate for what you guys are doing, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, we still don't know if there was a cemetery there, but at least we've tried to document it, so, one way or the other.
Appreciate your work.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
All right, so let's move on real quick. D, Liberty Mutual Day.
Yeah, so we need to file our request if we want to get helpers from Liberty Mutual that during their Serve with Liberty month, basically. It's like the end of April to mid-May in 2025, that the employees in the past, I used to work for Liberty Mutual for 38 years, and the employees really love to do this and are very passionate about it. So it would be, when we talked about this a couple meetings ago, we thought maybe painting the railings at North Cemetery might be a good job for them. Painting is really one of the common things that they do for nonprofits. So I have the application, and I sent just a draft of it to Suzanne, Sue, and Corin. And so I guess just looking for feedback on that, if it makes sense. We can pick any date we want. I think the most popular days of the week are, Friday mornings, because then, they can take off the rest of the day. But it's something Liberty's really serious about, and the employees really work, in my experience anyway. So I think it would be good to get them.
That'd be amazing, yeah. They have
Yeah.
a great reputation.
Yeah, it's
And
good.
I went over it real quick. It says North Cemetery. which is, there is some,
But we want to do union too?
yeah,
there?
union's the big
Okay.
one. So, other than that. So I guess I would just ask for any feedback about submitting this. Corin, you helped put all the information
I
together.
didn't have a chance to look at it, Dee. I'll have a quick
That's
look at
fine.
it in the morning if I see anything.
Yeah.
That's weird, you know.
I put you down as the contact for the organization,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
the city.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. So if I see anything
Okay.
odd, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
but
just let me
otherwise-
know. Has to be in by the end of February, so we got plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is it sort of that first come, first serve basis, though?
No, they, once you're accepted, they put it out there for everybody. And Portsmouth is a popular
Oh, cool.
place for employees to come in. And now that they've shut down the Dover campus, you know, all Seacoast employees have a tie to the
Yeah.
Borthwick, you know, location. So I think we'd get a lot of interest. I put down for 12 people. That seemed manageable.
Yeah.
And I picked May 9th. It ends May 16th, so I thought we'd do May 9th, and if
It's a Friday,
it happens to be a rain event, that we could, you know, do it on the
Another day.
16th.
Perfect.
Yeah, so,
All right.
and that's
so-
a Friday.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any discussion about, you know,
Let's go-
submitting it or
Do they
not?
do 4 hours? Is that usually what they
I
do?
think the minimum's 3.
3.
I'll check on that, though, because I put 9 to 12.
What?
I
What
think
time
the
did they
min-
start work?
8. I mean, they,
Let's do 8 to 12.
8 to 12, okay.
Yeah. I
Yep,
mean, there's
we
a
can do
lot
that.
of,
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
one of those things, everybody doesn't absolutely have to show up at 8, but
Right,
the
right.
early birds that would like to come, I mean, because there's a lot of, a lot of wrought iron down in there.
Okay.
So,
I can put for more employees. I was just thinking
no, I,
for a manageable,
Bumping into each other with all the.
right, that's what I was thinking.
Probably plenty.
yeah, or we could end up with one section painted and then skipped and another,
Yeah, yeah.
Could end up as a patchwork,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Do we provide the materials?
yes.
Okay.
So,
Thank you for organizing that.
Oh, no, that's good. That's,
any questions for Dee or Corin or?
The railings that are going to be painted, do they need to be pre-treated with anything? Because there's a lot of rust on them.
I mean, I would just knock off any loose scale or you know, loose rust. And I think there's a product called POR, which is a rust inhibitor. And you can paint it right over rust. That's the whole point of it.
Okay.
I think that's what we'd probably use. It's a auto-grade rust-inhibiting paint. So you can go directly on the paint.
We probably use something like sandpaper just to do a quick over it and,
Maybe, or just
I mean-
scrapers and maybe a cordless grinder if there was something really bad. But most of that down there is just weathered. There's not a lot of loose stuff. It's just really old wrought iron that's just rusted. The PLR is, we're going to want to make sure people understand not to get it on themselves because it does not come off for many, many, many days on your skin, so.
so I guess we'll be supplying gloves too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I won't go anywhere near it because it will land on me somewhere. I'm terrible with paint.
Any other questions or concerns? All right, all those in favor of submitting the application upon Corin's last,
Is that a motion?
yes, oh, no, is that, I forget.
and Suzanne, too, you know, if there's some legal issue
Yeah,
that,
she should definitely take a quick look
yeah.
at it.
And I sent it to her, but I'll make sure.
Yeah. So provided everything is kosher with Corin and Suzanne, yes, could I have a motion for,
Or you're making a motion to
Can I make a
approve or
motion?
accept the Day of Volunteer Service with Liberty Mutual on May 9th, 2025.
that's what he said. Are we doing that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks.
Would it be possible to get whatever it was that was submitted? I know I didn't get anything in
No, I
writing.
just sent it to Suzanne, Corin, and Sue.
But, yeah,
Suzanne, I'm sorry, likes to look at stuff before it gets broadly shared, so.
Yeah, you're okay to send him a copy, don't you?
Okay.
I don't think there's an issue.
Well, just
Yeah,
so I know what's going on, it might be
Yeah.
nice.
yeah. Anybody else want a copy of it, or? Okay.
Then tell them it's done.
Okay, plans for cemetery repairs, and that list for me, or what I put down was the products we're going to use and build some more, what are those called? And Corin's going to talk about that.
Well, Sue was thinking maybe we could make a few more tripods so that when we get to that point, when we have enough folks,
Yep.
and I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, just let me
take a lead
know.
on that.
We can maybe meet over at the supply place and just get what you need or whatever.
Okay, sounds good.
That's fine.
You
Maybe-
would think of like 2 more?
Probably
Or
2
just
more.
1 more?
Probably
Okay.
2.
I was thinking two, yeah.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's the limiting factor? The legs or the
The
actual?
legs are the weak part.
Because they're wood, right? You're using wood?
Yeah.
Be interesting to see if we could use some pipe or something.
I've also seen those temporary lolly columns that go in the basement. Those are adjusted, they're round, they're light. I've got 2 at my house, I think, so I need 1 more of those, but that would be the best way to go.
Okay.
We could try one of those before we go
Yeah.
further, but I'll
We'll
reach out
talk.
to you.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause-
Okay.
And then I sent him a copy. You sent the product for Broken Stones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you have a chance?
I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm sure it's fine. We can just buy some and try it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I took I went down a rabbit hole of stone repair.
It looked like a rabbit hole
And,
product. I was like, man, this is deep
There
dive.
was so much information.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to find it, because you can get glues for all the different types of stone,
Yeah.
and it's almost invisible.
Right.
Yeah.
You can make it look like it was never broken.
I think we
The
should buy
crack's still
some
gonna
and
be there,
and
but
try
it'll be
it.
clear.
There's a broken one up in Cotton Cemetery that's leaning against the tree, and there's 2 halves right there, and it's a small one. I could take it and bring it to my house and just fix it.
I'll order some, and I think we
Okay.
should play with it a little bit and see
Yeah.
what we think works.
Right.
Right? I mean,
I-
we'll only know.
It seems like it went for a lot of different stones, not just slate.
Right,
Wow.
right, no, but if you keep going in the stone repair,
You really tailor it.
somebody spent a lot of time, they've had a lot of time, because it's been cemeteries for a long time.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's a lot of,
Do you guys use any of that stuff? Or-
No, I'd like to know a little more. I'm very comfortable with
Okay.
different
Yeah.
types of epoxies. I just looked at the packaging. I didn't study its tensile strength and color, and I'd be anxious to know what it is and if it's,
Yeah.
well, you can watch.
I could use.
You can take it and watch YouTube videos on how to do it. That's what I was doing, and it was
Well,
it
for
was just
the-
great. We can do it right in the cemetery in the summertime.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to take them out of this thing. so we
Such a
have- unless we have
beautiful
to.
word, such a beautiful word, summertime.
But I-
So,
They
I
make
have
you
all the
warm
clamps
all over.
and stuff like that, too.
okay, so
Or-
just to clarify, because we went over a little because of some
I was
other.
happy to find it,
So,
Where did you find it?
Steve,
just online, but I just kept digging.
what, the name of it, or
Yeah.
that you're talking about?
Yeah.
I can send you a copy of the picture that he sent me. I thought you were on the list anyway.
I thought it was.
Or do you have it, Cory?
I might have a picture of it that I can send. my-
So to clarify, Michael, Peter, and Steve are going to get with Corin over the next few weeks or whatever and figure out all the tools that we need for repairing headstones and straightening them. And that the ultimate goal, as soon as the ground has thawed, I don't even know if is it frozen now? I mean, I'm not suggesting you do it now, but I'm just saying when you feel comfortable, then I, or the rest of us can start reaching out to other groups to help. Because I don't want to contact anybody for volunteers, like at the Navy Yard or even Rotary, whatever, until we're comfortable with what we're doing and how we're repairing. So when people come, there won't be a lot of wasted time. You'll be able to show them what to do and you guys will have it down pat, because I know you are. So, is that what we're?
Do they use aluminum angle iron?
I think we had talked that we didn't,
I think the committee decided they didn't want to have metal of any kind screwed into the headstones. You wanted to try an epoxy first, so it would be a
Yeah,
cleaner
so we could
look.
eliminate that look.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw one at the North Cemetery the other day. It was just,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's what the committee is all about, coming to deciding what
Yeah.
we want our cemeteries to look like and where they are.
do it that way. I think
I don't disagree with you. I think it's a nicer look than I have braces and,
Yeah.
if it works, then great.
You know, if, we always have fallbacks, so if you guys are committed to diving into this
Let the
end of it.
experiments begin.
we certainly have enough broken stones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
There's enough of those footstones over there that people to learn can use, but reset the footstones, they're easy. We get a half dozen
Yeah.
Right.
in an hour
Ah.
kind
Yeah.
of thing, so it's.
Yeah. No. I mean, we're going to be such an organized, well-oiled machine. Cemeteries won't know what's hitting them, so. And then we can show the rest of the world. North Cemetery work date, I'm going to let Corin talk about all that's happened in the last month.
The old chain link fence that was running down along the dirt road that goes into the railroad track area has been removed.
Really?
And
to go down and
kind
see
of
that.
cleaned up, and hopefully in the spring we'll grade it out a little bit and plant grass. And then a portion of that fence went along the mill pond or the drainage swale there. We took probably half of that out right now. You'll notice that I think it was every third or fourth post, we had to leave at about half height and recap because the boundary line has not been decided upon. So we were asked to leave that as a reference. So those are there, but it doesn't actually look that bad.
No, you really can't see
You
it.
can't really see them.
Yeah.
I believe the tree crew at some point this winter is going to take down the 2 dead ash trees that are on that line too. So that's been kind of cleaned up, and all the debris has been taken out, and the
Invasives.
loose rocks and all that's gone. And then Earl Chase, our horticulturalist from Prescott Park, came down with the DPW crew, and they did all the invasive removals along the shoreline at North and Union. So that's been kind of cleaned up, which looks nice. It's
Yeah.
natural, but the invasives are out, so that just opened it up and kind of cleaned it up a bit. Yeah, that's kind of the two main things. we
Yeah.
do.
Wonderful.
It's really
And
It looks
there's-
great over there.
It does.
I
So-
walk over there.
It
That's
looks
one part
nice
of my
with the
walk.
fence gone, yeah.
Yeah, now that the bridge, now I can get across the Maplewood Bridge.
Yeah.
I can do a loop down
Yeah.
Dennett, so I
Yeah.
go through there.
Hopefully we can get some grass going and.
Yeah.
Kind of,
And then,
I want to grade it so the mowers can have, just the zero turns can just get right through there and mow that, keep that clear.
and then we had talked about, once, grass is growing and everything, and live with the cemetery the way it looks this summer, then we can get a better idea of what we would like to plant for, in between the trees for a low hedge or what have you.
Yeah, we'll have to see where the property line ends up being. That's a future project, is probably planting
And,
something in their trees, probably.
It's ironic that John that's his project too,
I know,
establishing that boundary.
when.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, when it's, I mean, this decision about property lines has been going on for over 20 years. So there's no time soon. And what we're hoping, when we were talking about it down there, that we don't care what the property line is. We just want to be able to make it look nice. And so if we're a little over, anybody that has the right of way isn't going to care if we keep it looking.
I wouldn't imagine. I'm sure there'll be some kind of maintenance agreement that,
Yeah.
they allow us to cross a little bit there.
Because the gentleman that's building the right directly across who gave us the money, a lot of those bushes right by the railroad on their side and the fence are almost gone because of all the construction that's been going on down there. So eventually there could be just a straight way, look down. And plus, going in the future, and a couple people keep saying, we're going to have the greenway down there. So
Yeah.
we'll already be a focal point.
That goes all the way to the river, right?
Yeah.
The proposed greenway, as far as I
Yeah,
know.
it's supposed to come out the other end.
So you could hook up with the railroad track
The rail trail, yeah, that's, I think.
and
it's
go all the way
supposed-
to Joe's Meat Market in Hampton?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I don't, no, I'm
You
talking
can
this
go all the way
way.
down to the.
That's where I went.
Airline Cafe or wherever they call it and get
Yeah.
breakfast.
Yeah,
You can get to Joe's now.
yeah, you can get to
Yeah, you
Joe's.
can get to Joe's, yeah.
Oh, I'm
I
talking
rode
the
it
other way.
with my son. It was
Yeah,
great.
I've
It's
ridden it
great.
too. It's great.
Oh, so great.
It's
Yeah, no, I'm
beautiful.
talking about the other way.
No, I know, but the other way's gonna, no, but to finish it, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. So that's where that stands right now. We talked about Hanover. Yellow fever's just on hold because it was wet until it got frozen. So no sense in doing, for UNH to do drone things because it won't have the same impact. So that's on hold right now. Other business, Celeste, I gave her information for the application to Flatbread to do a fundraiser there, and they wanted to know about everything in the world. So, but she has that and is going to submit it. Just for transparency, I've been working with Bob Sullivan on the need for another cemetery, a brand-new cemetery, and Corin's involved too, and so they have all the information, and then I think how it's going to go is if they're going to decide to present it to the city, city council, that we need a new cemetery, not tomorrow, but we need one, and form another committee or give it to us to, look into the situation. And I think, as we've said before, there are a few spots in Portsmouth that, out on the Ocean Road area, that would be appropriate, or even one down in Panaway Manor. So that's where that stands. Suzanne will be here at our next meeting, and officially, I think, on the 6th, did you stay at the whole city council meeting? I didn't. Was there a city council meeting?
Monday?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was there, but I didn't stay until the very end.
Anyway, they voted, according to Suzanne, to approve the new volunteer handbook, and all of the information, the handbook and documents to read, and just initial that you've read them, are going to be online. So we don't have to particularly do it, but the information will be there. So she's going to come and talk to people, talk to us, and let us know what the volunteer, what our rights are as far as being volunteers. And my look or perspective of volunteers is they're just unpaid. We're just unpaid workers, employees, and we should have the same rights as employees do. So I don't know how much of all of that says that, but they've clearly put out what kind of committee we are, listed the types of committees and what rights they're available to. So that will be next agenda. Let's see, I talked to the mayor during Christmas vacation because I happened to run into him, and I spoke to him about our North Cemetery being a part of the 250th anniversary celebration. He said he knew that Jean Shaheen is in charge of the New Hampshire celebration of the 250th, and he said he would be glad to reach out to Jean's office and see how we could fit in with that type of thing. So I'm sure he'll be in contact. He asked me to send him a reminder, and I sent a reminder via his secretary yesterday, so I'm sure he'll get it.
One of the things that happened on Monday's meeting is that I requested that the city put together a commission, because it is, as far as I know, New Hampshire is in charge of the 250th. They have an RSA that they put together, and they put together a commission.
Oh,
which legislatures and this and that, I mean, the list is fairly long.
And that's online?
Yeah, RSA, I may have a copy in my purse. And other towns have been putting together committees in order to work with them for that. And so I was like, I looked for a committee from Portsmouth. I didn't see it. So I requested that they put together a blue ribbon committee to work with that commission on planning
Right.
some events for the
Right,
250.
and I had reached out to of our city councilors like 2 months ago, and they said they hadn't heard of anything, and that they were going to look around, and unfortunately, talk to people and everything. And unfortunately, they haven't gotten back to me, and that was in the beginning of November. So I don't know. I just wanted to put it out there, so I don't know further down the line how we may be part of it, or a subcommittee of us might be, be a part of it, whatever. I just wanted to put it out on the table so that people are aware of it. And I'm not talking about, the reason I picked North Cemetery for the state, because no one's talked about the city, is because we have so many important people with the Revolution buried there.
Yeah.
So more than Whipple and Langdon, we have the man that saved Lafayette at the beginning of the war, and if he hadn't saved him, who knows how things would have turned out. We have captains of both the militia and the Navy that are buried there. We have 5 people that were a part of Fort Constitution, but William and Mary. We have doctors that were vital to the Revolutionary War and all those kinds of things. So it doesn't have to solely be that cemetery, but I thought if we were going to get anywhere with the state, that was the best one to pick out, because it certainly deserves acknowledgement. And we're going to have it looking pretty by 2026. So
Good now.
it does.
Never
It
looked
looks
better.
so much better.
Yeah, just so you know, if you want to note, is RSA 17-S,
17-S.
semicolon 1, and it was put together in 2022.
Oh, okay. Good to know. So, and I just thought it would be really helpful, since Deglin offered to reach out, that was the best person to do it. So, we'll see how he makes out. If I don't hear back from him in a couple of weeks, then I'll reach out to him again.
Yeah, the U.S. senators are not part of the list of the people that are appointed,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Yep, so, since I've already reached out to Deglin, we'll see what that turns out. We still have some time left. The African Burial Ground, the next meeting is January 27th, and there's really nothing new going on with that at this point in time, but I just wanted to keep us apprised of how that is, how we might intertwine them with us going down the line. Because that's also one of the things I mentioned in my email, is that Prince Whipple was one of the people that signed the petition for freedom to the state of New Hampshire, is also buried there. And all those slaves had been promised by the US, or the colony, or the Continental Congress, I should say, that they would have their freedom if they fought in the Revolution, and that didn't happen when they came back. So he was part of that. I forget, I think there was 13 or 14 of them that petitioned the state for their freedom, and they didn't get it then either, so. But there's nothing else. Does anybody else have any questions?
Did
or-
Chris Colby get back to you?
Oh, I forgot to write that down, that's one. We did, what was his name again? I don't have,
Chris Colby.
Colby. He is the mason, or his company, he was at the site. His company rebuilt, or took down and rebuilt the wall at McNabb's place on Court Street.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so, and he came to look at Wendell Tomb. I already told you, yeah, I did. Wendell Tomb way back before they, and he said we weren't in any danger of it collapsing, that it, you know, there was essentially several walls in between. But he looked at it and said we didn't have to worry about snow and all of that crushing it because there are remains in there. So he said he would be interested in that. And he also came over to Hall Cemetery and said they would be interested if they were in the area to restack that wall over there, which was is an old wall. I did send him an email asking him for a estimate. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, so I'll reach out to him again.
It's probably someplace warm, and
Yes, exactly. But it made us feel good in Corn. I can say that.
they do all the sidewalks pretty much for Severino.
Yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't think pouring a sidewalk is a gift or an art? No one does it any better than Colby.
Yeah. So it's not in imminent danger of collapsing, so that was my biggest concern when I was over there that day, so.
Were you planning on discussing these?
Oh,
Should we put that off to the next?
yeah, it's too big of a,
We'll put it on the agenda.
yeah, next time for the,
Well, Sue will be here.
yeah, Suzanne will be here too. Because then we can ask her, I'm not sure where these would get posted, the, yeah?
So did anyone answer the email from Laurel Yancey?
Not yet.
No,
Okay.
no,
I will.
Monument?
What's that?
Yeah, that's right, I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
yeah, does everybody have like 5 more minutes, or? Okay.
So Laurel Yancey is a relative of Dinah Chase Whipple and Prince Whipple. And we were working with Seacoast Memorials to get a headstone for North Cemetery to put next to Prince Whipple. And Seacoast is closed. They stopped operations at the end of December, so, and I won't get into all the promises
Closed
we
for
were
good
made.
or
Yeah, I
closed for the
think so.
winter?
They're closed, yeah, for,
John Hall's the
Good.
guy you want to talk to.
what's that?
John Hall.
Oh, really? Who is John Hall?
He used to work for Howard Simpson, so he's been in the monument business for 40 years. He's got an office in Portsmouth. He has one where he lives in Stratford,
Okay.
up near Northwood. I'll get you his information.
Okay, I'll talk to them. I've started to work with Richardson because it's really difficult to get marble. Most headstone companies just work with granite
Yeah.
these days, and Prince's headstone is in marble. It just would be, nice to have that. They can do headstones out of granite and kind of make it look like marble. But anyway, so I am working with Richardson's, but I'll reach out to John Hall as well.
Yeah, that'd be-
Yeah. So,
he's a local guy.
yeah,
Richardson's a big operation. Not to say they're not capable, but
okay, good. Thank you. But yeah, our aim is to get it first this spring. And I will.
so the Yanceys backed out. They don't want to participate?
The Seacoast Memorials?
Yancey.
Oh, no, she's following up to make sure we're still on it, so I'll respond to her and tell her that, because she's been on conference calls with me with Seacoast Memorials, so, she knows that they were,
Are they putting forth any money?
we didn't. I kept asking them if they need a deposit.
Are they paying for this, or are we?
Oh, no, the Daughters of America.
Colonial Dames.
Colonial Dames
Yeah.
gave us the majority of the money. We did raise a couple $100 too from a website that, we posted on Facebook, but that is a city website. But, so we have, Richardson's did give us a quote a year ago, and they were more expensive than Seacoast, so we might have to raise more money, but I will reach out to John Hall as well, so.
I would think at that point in time, too, that's when we could definitely ask the families to make up the difference or what have you, and see what they say, too.
Yeah.
All they can do is say no.
What was the price? 2,000?
For the Seacoast Memorials, it was $2,500, I believe. So Richardson's was a little higher than that, like 3,000. But I'm, looping back with them, it could be more. But, and I think the.
Offer at one point to, do some fundraising on there, and
They did, and then, and they were going to do that, and then the Colonial Dames stepped up and said,
okay, right, I remember now.
yeah,
Thanks.
so we thought we were all set, but, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And what, I don't have it in front of me, do you have the two copies? Suzanne, along with, or you can talk about if you want to, the two guidelines
Yeah.
and the visitor etiquette.
Yeah, it's probably too late to get in
Yeah,
to it
I
in
mean,
much detail.
just the titles and.
So next meeting, we will talk about some guidelines that we've drafted for,
And you have them in your.
yeah, installation of new stones, and also just etiquette for the, for being on our city's cemetery grounds. And so if you guys could just take a look at it and
Good, thank you.
let us know your thoughts and at the next meeting, and we'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Because it's going to take a little while to go through those, too.
Yeah.
I want to get through the others, but thank you for reminding me. Any other questions or something else I may have forgotten that we should be doing, or? No?
Just when you thought we ran out of things to do,
I want to keep you guys
you must stay awake
busy.
at night and think.
You're going to make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. So-
Second.
Oh, I can't make it. I'm not.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Thank you, guys.
Stay.